In order to make a traditional circle skirt, you start with a pattern that looks something like this. Basically, the sketch represents a piece of fabric that has been folded twice over. The two folds are at the left side and the top. In the corner between these two folds, we measure out both the radius, which is the waist of the skirt, as well as the skirt length. The length of the skirt can really be whatever you want, but in order to create an above-the-knee skirt, I am going to make it 20 inches long and add a half-inch hem allowance. In order to determine the radius of the skirt, we are going to use this equation. First, you need to measure out your waist. Then you plug it in. To find the radius, divide your waist measurement by 2 pi. Alright, so I have my fabric laid out like in the pattern. 2 of the sides are folded, and at the corner between the folds we are going to cut the waist. First, we are going to start off by marking the radius, which we determined by the equation I explained a little bit earlier. I'm just going to put the end of my measuring tape at the corner and mark the radius all the way around. You connect the dots, and this little semicircle is going to end up the waist of the skirt. Now we want to do the same thing, but for the bottom of the skirt. I am going to keep the end of my tape at the corner and put a dot at the radius plus skirt length plus hem allowance all the way around. We are basically drawing up a quarter of the skirt, and with the 4 layers of fabric here, we are going to get a whole donut shape. Now I'm just going to cut along the lines. Now to hem the bottom. Most people do this last, but I like to get it out of the way, especially when I'm confident with my measurements. I just fold it over once and sew a straight stitch along the entire bottom of the skirt. Once that is done, I just kind of arbitrarily pick where I want the back to be and cut a straight line from top to bottom. To make the waistband, I cut a rectangle 2.5 inches wide and the length of my waist. I will then just fold that in half and sew it into the waist of the skirt with a straight stitch. The back seam is going to have a 9-inch invisible zipper. So to set that up, I'm going to sew a really long, narrow straight stitch from the top of the skirt down 9 inches that'll be super easy to pull out with a seam ripper later. Once I get to the bottom of where I want my zipper to be, I sew a reinforced straight stitch down to the bottom of the skirt. To install the zipper, I iron down that 9-inch seam and pin the zipper in along where I'm going to take out the stitch with the seam ripper and sew that all up. Now I take my seam ripper and reveal the zipper underneath.